Welcome back to the Get Loved Up podcast, your number one resource for inspiration and motivation to live your purpose, make healthy living a priority, and thrive doing what you love. I'm your host, Koya Webb, a small town girl who chased her dreams and caught them, a former track and field athlete who healed using spirituality and yoga, and an entrepreneur who didn't let sexual assault, racism, and insecurities dim her light. And now it's your turn to allow these episodes with some of the top voices in spirituality, wellness, and entrepreneurship to inspire you to thrive. Let's get loved up together. Stiles is a global yoga, movement, and wellness expert, author, and founder of Stråla Yoga. Named Yoga Rebel by the New York Times, Tara brings a revolutionary approach to being, moving, and healing to inspire millions around the world with her relatable perspectives to yoga, meditation, exercise, awareness, nutrition, and everyday well-being. Through her books, including her newest, Clean Mind, Clean Body, and both in-person and online classes, Tara offers an important reset button, providing tools, guidance, and immersive experiences and mental and physical self-care to transform daily routines and habits and ease into our wellness where we can truly feel and be our best selves. Tara, welcome to the Get Loved Up podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to chat with you.
I'm so excited because you just glow, and we have never, I don't think we've ever met in person.
I don't know how that's possible, but I'm going to come find you whenever we're allowed to go find each other again and squeeze onto you.
Yeah. Whenever we're allowed, because, we don't even know these days. We've been through so much, right?
Mm-hmm. True.
And just before we start recording, I know you said it, it feels like things are getting a little more rigid. And I love starting organically. So I want to dive right in there. Y'all going to get to, you just heard our bio and know her background, but I want to start in with the pain point that we're experiencing right now as a community, because I actually feel that too. I think we're retreating a little bit right now. Do you want to share a little bit about what you're feeling and what you're feeling in your community?
Sure. I mean, honestly, most of the people that I speak with are still online all the time. So I feel like, all my friends are inside the computer, and I'm sure with a lot of people, because we have this, boundary of the computer, we feel, a little bit more, whether it's vulnerable or open to just share the things that we're not really saying to the people around us, when we wake up out of bed and the family stuff, it's sort of, the normal life. So I feel like people are really, and myself too, I'm sharing as well. I don't feel like, for me, like I'm just listening and teaching people stuff, it definitely feels like we're all in this together for sure. And a lot of that rigidity, I feel, is coming up again, because at least for me and folks that I'm speaking with, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way, this isn't over. There's no, okay, and now we're back. Yay, let's go and do stuff again. I know everybody's even just tired of talking about the situation for the last couple of years, but really it's just feeling tense to, kind of go into the world and do things and how we feel about it. And, that awkwardness, maybe it's kind of that first meeting people again and all of the stuff that's kind of come up inside. I know for me, I don't know where the time went for 2021. I just, I know I've been alive, thank God, and been doing stuff and been grateful to be active and busy and distracted and all of those things, generally positive things, but it just doesn't feel like it happened still. So I know that we're all kind of somewhere along this line of moving too fast and moving, maybe feeling like slow. And there's a lot of rigidity that kind of, creeps in from the inside out for sure that we're going through.
Yeah, I feel you. I definitely agree, because it's like you're going home and you're traveling, but different people practice different things. Like to go see your family, do you need a card and a PCR test? And, if you have a headache, stay home. I mean, it's just, there's so much. I think that we now have to address now that we really want to come together. And I do think most people are wanting to come together and see each other, but it's like, okay, so what protocols? And I think that's kind of the rigidity that I feel on my side. So going with that, I do want to kind of share about your childhood. What was it like growing up in your world, before yoga? Like, and I know you have a background of a family in yoga. So would you share a little bit about, your childhood and what it was like growing up?
Sure. I mean, and I know a lot of people have a similar experience, but I was one of those kids that was just dying to leave. I was just looking at my clock and wondering, okay, when can I get out of here? When can I go and meet people and learn things and discuss the world? And, this was before the internet. So I'm sure kids now probably have a different relationship to, wanting to go somewhere to learn something when you can really do so much of that. I mean, it's got to be so strange also because it's in the phone, but not having that, I just had this intense craving to go and learn. And, so I hung out at the library, I hung out in the woods, and, I hung out with the kids that were artsy and strange and, painting on sidewalks and combat boots and stuff like that. And, now looking back, I feel so silly because everything that I was moving toward, I already had, kind of the raw materials of the peace of mind, the community is everywhere, kind of in everyone kind of a thing. And looking for that calmness, that connection to nature, looking for that spirituality in myself and also in the world, in the nature, but also in people and community and all of these kinds of things. So I feel silly, but also I feel like as a kid, I really wanted to learn more from grownups who had sort of the same ideas of my silly, raw, big feelings that we're all connected and tell me some facts, so just reading in the books. And thankfully we weren't too far away from Chicago was the nearest big city. So I danced as a kid and I got to go and learn from really good dance teachers at that time that would travel in and say, oh yeah, keep going. And they would encourage me. But, I was waiting in the coat room trying to be, kidnapped by somebody to be taken away to a better place. But, I didn't have any major complaints besides just that craving to kind of get involved in the world and learn and grow and use my energy for hopefully good. So it was just that kind of feeling of hunger really all the time.
Right. And was that hunger when it comes to dance? Was there a point where you ever stopped wanting to dance? Do you still where does dance sit in your life right now, having that passion as a young girl?
Yeah, for me, it was always this kind of cosmic thing where it felt like a way to communicate with myself for and with people. The only kind of strangeness I felt growing up dancing was I didn't really want the stage to be there. I wanted to dance with the people. And I remember being kind of a young teenager and seeing Alvin Ailey perform for the first time. And they do this beautiful piece where they bring strangers from the audience to the stage. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that is the coolest thing in the whole world, showing that interconnection between the performers and the audience. And I remember being a little kid and dancing, and the most fun I had at performances were, silly things like performing at the nursing home for the people that were just right there. And they would talk to me afterwards about their experience dancing as a young person growing up and their memories. And I really loved that kind of interconnection with the audience. So when I started learning yoga, it was this strange thing where I felt like, oh my gosh, this is the experience you can share dancing with the people in this way. And I know I lead yoga movements, but to me, it feels like that experience with dance for sure. So whether I'm leading yoga or, kind of shimmying around with somebody, it's that same kind of connection that I was always drawn to for sure.
I love
Seems like you
that.
have that too.
Yeah.
Just kind of looking at your eyes.
Yeah, it's so special because I think that a lot of times, people growing up and maybe some people listening now, you have that thing that you're passionate about and your life shifts and change. And then one day you wake up and you realize like, wait a minute, I'm kind of doing exactly what I wanted to do, but it's different. And I think that's so powerful that you said now you're dancing with people, but it's through yoga and yoga movements, because I feel like as spiritual beings, and I know I can go there with you, like it's more of this passion of connectedness, versus how we make that connectedness happen. Have you experienced that in your life? And can you kind of just talk a little bit more about oneness and how you feel that's transcended through your dance into yoga, into what you're doing now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I really think and feel that we all experience that. And whether it's, you experience it and then you get embarrassed about it, or somebody says, don't talk about that. I had that experience a lot as a kid. I remember coming in from just playing outside and telling my parents, Mom, Dad, we're all connected, the trees and the people and the nature and the world and people in the other side of the world. And they would just tell me, yeah, and they wouldn't deny it, but there wasn't really a conversation to be had, because I guess there wasn't really a conversation in normal life about that. And I feel like there is in yoga. And not just in yoga, but really in life now, especially since everything in the last few years, we all have to find a different way to be together and want to be together. And there's a lot of reflection and more kind of collective taking good care of ourselves. People understand, that it's like, I am no different than you. And if you're suffering, I'm suffering, kind of these general ideas that just because you do yoga, you don't necessarily get either. Yoga can be a very different practice for different people. But I really love this idea that, it's so simple and so beautiful that we're all connected. And when you do take care of yourself, you're taking care of your neighbor. And when you take care of your neighbor, you're taking care of yourself. If your neighbor throws out trash, it's going to end up on your lawn, that kind of a thing. So yeah. I think it's really simple and beautiful that we can have these conversations, whatever you're really passionate about. And for me, yoga and the movement side of connecting with ourselves is just a way in. And, really any art form is a way into. And, I think that was probably why I was so hungry as a kid to learn from really anyone that had that kind of light up thing going in behind their eyes, because it didn't matter if they were a writer, a speaker, a school teacher, anything. They understood that kind of universal, everything's connected. So do the best you can and kind of look out for everybody. And I've just always loved that. I guess I've always loved trying to find that in myself and in people. And if people don't have that, knowing that it's there, you just have to kind of do something so you remember it. And then, okay, I can get back on that path now too. I'm going to be all right.
Oh, so true. Ashe. Something just came up in me when you were saying that. And, because I always tell people, do the things that bring you joy and you'll find your way. And in doing the things that bring you joy and you find your way, you find the way in. And so I love that you said, you'll find your way in, because I feel like connecting those together and realizing the more that we do the things that bring us joy, the more we'll find that way in, and that way to serve, that way to connect. Right? Because what is it really? We say, oh, let's make so much money and let's have this notoriety. But at the end of the day, we all know people who are happy, who don't have much at all, just have the bare necessities. And we know people who have everything they could possibly want, all the money in the world, all the assets in the world, and that are extremely unhappy. But I love what you said about just being connected and knowing that you're connected, knowing that you're supported, knowing that you're doing something that is serving. I feel like that is something that we should teach in schools, like all of our youth. Do you have something right now that, you hold on to when you forget, like, okay, I'm doing what I love? Or are you just on all the time?
Oh, I think I do the things that I do because I need it for sure. I lead a live yoga class every day. I mean, a lot of people that I talk to and tell them that you're going to burn out, you're going to go crazy. It's like, no, I actually need this. If one person is there, cool. If 1,000, cool. It doesn't matter to me because I know for me doing this practice or a practice helps me find that way in. Mm-hmm. And, if I can do that together with others, I know that kind of feels more amplified. You feel that energy, whether it's online or in person, it's kind of that same thing. We just in your mind, okay, we're together doing this thing. And that's great. So I know myself and maybe just, my own tendencies enough to know that I can't just skip it and be cool, kind of slide by forever. I need to do these things and I know better. I kind of looked for them in my early life. And once I found them, I say, okay, I'll be a total idiot if I just stop and just think I'm good. I have to do these. And then every time I do, then that moment or that feeling of being in lasts longer. It lasts the whole day then. And of course, physically you feel better, but it's really just this whole, how you just said so well, finding that connection in. Then I remember, if I open the door for somebody at a coffee shop, it doesn't take any energy away from me. It gives me more energy. I feel better that I've made a new friend, and you go on and then better things happen. And you just remember that helping others is better for you than it even is for that person you did something nice for. So I just feel like that's, one of the biggest secrets that, I somehow, found in the universe that we all know. It's like, it just is easy. But when we feel crap, we don't want to do it. We think, if I do that thing, then I'm not going to have as much as I have, or I'm going to go out of my way for somebody else. But you really, once you find that way in, all of a sudden you're going and having just as much energy that you need and helping other people. And, maybe if it was like a pinball machine, you could see how that all bounces back to you and helps you continue to be good and do nice things. So thanks for talking about this with me, because this is like my favorite thing to talk about. And I still feel like it's a little bit of a strange topic, but everybody remembers somewhere about this. So it's kind of cool.
I think it's so important. I think we should talk about it more because really, self-care, it's all about filling your own cup so you can pour out. But sometimes I think we can get to a place where, like you said, I feel so bad, like I can't even do for myself. And if I can't do for myself, how can I do for another? But the beautiful thing is exactly what you said. If you're to a point where you feel like you can't do for yourself, you're more likely to do for someone else. And if it's just something little, like you said, like opening a door or just sitting with an elder or helping a child tie their shoes, that little thing. It's just like, I know I feel like I could have a really bad day. Maybe someone cut me off in traffic and I just smile at someone or tell someone their hair is pretty or say, oh, I love your shirt. And you feel that joy, and that joy from that other person, I feel it within myself. And so, hopefully everyone listening is knowing it's not just physical. It doesn't have to be buying someone a drink. It can literally be a compliment or time spent. And I really, really think those little things, especially at this time, are really going to help us get over the hump, which actually reminds me of the first thing we actually did together, not in person, but virtually, was the Share the Mic experience. And I know you've done a lot of work. And I think I definitely want to just kind of talk about like the work you've done over the last, I guess, year and a half, and how it's transformed your life. Because I've definitely noticed some people did a little bit and they stopped, and, but I definitely have noticed that with you specifically, like after the Share the Mic experience, I actually, knew you more and also was more aware of the work you're doing in the world. So I would love to just dive into that period for you, what that meant for you and how you've been able to connect even deeper.
Gosh, well, that was such a cool opportunity. I mean, I just feel so grateful that I got asked to be included in that. You know, I think it's really nice to feel like, okay, I can do something. And for everybody, okay, there's something that I can do, however, you know, however big or small you feel. And I think that's just super cool. And then I got paired up with my friend, Aisha, which was so cool. And we've just been doing stuff together here and there. And to hear her talk about her own struggles as a Black woman in London, starting a business, it was kind of like, oh, I'm sorry I never asked you about this before. You know, you're my friend. We sit down, we do stuff together. And I kind of just took it for granted that she was my friend, and kind of took for granted that we had this relationship. And I didn't even understand that things were harder for her for silly, stupid reasons, you know? So just to sit there and be like, you know, and not that I, you know, deserve any rage for that, but just that, like, you are my friend and like, this sucks, you know? And then, you know, obviously checking in on other friends, and then realizing that, okay, I've always kind of felt looking out for anybody that needs a little bit of help is a good idea. But I definitely grew up in this, like, we don't see color, you know, kind of category. And until, you know, we started talking about it and having these conversations, like, oh yeah, this is a thing. This is a whole thing. And I always thought, you know, everybody's doing their best and everybody's trying to help everybody, but there's some obvious things that I can do and that people can do to just share the mic in general. And I thought, okay, you know, and then, you know, of course, then everything happens, and, you know, there's so much tension around sharing the mic too. And then it becomes this, you know, bad thing. Oh, if you don't do it, it's bad for your business. And, you know, I don't want to be involved in that at all, you know, or just only doing it to be seen, or only doing it for this, or only doing it for that. And then you just stop for a moment and you think, oh my God, like, this is just not cool that this still happens to people. And it's not cool that we don't think about it. We don't talk about it. And it's scary to talk about, and it's scary to think about it. So, you know, thankfully, my friend Aisha has been really cool to me about it. And, you know, just a lot of people in general that have reached out to me to do stuff. And it's like, obviously, yes, like anything I can do, I'm happy to do and help. You know, it's just it's not fair, and it's not cool. and I remembered, you know, thinking about Stråla and how we have this way where we connect about feeling better, and how I've always been so proud that all of our classes aren't superficial in the way where there's not a bunch of, you know, thin 20-year-old white women, but there might be, you know, an older European woman, and there might be a guy, and there might be this, and maybe like 2 Black women and 1 Black guy, you know? So it's kind of like the hard conversation of actually opening my mouth and saying, how can we get more Black people here? And what am I doing to prevent that? Not, I need to go and save some Black people and make Black people do yoga with me, but am I doing anything to make specifically Black people feel uncomfortable for not being here? And if so, what can I do? You know, and actually saying, I'm obviously doing things wrong. What can I do? You know, and not being afraid to be wrong, and just keep going and keep moving forward and asking questions and learning and just doing stuff, you know? So I feel like that's just been important to me for my whole life, but obviously much more important since it's been brought to my attention through Share the Mic. So thanks for that. But, you know, I'm just trying to get involved, trying to do my part, and trying to be not an idiot at the same time.
Thank you so much for that. I really loved how you said, you know, I'm making sure that I'm creating a safe space. Like that's what I heard, that you're creating a safe space so that people feel safe. And I think that's the most important thing. Like you said, it's not about like, oh, let me get more of this, or how can I get more of that? Because then it's not authentic. And then if you do get more people of any culture or any background, if it's not safe, and if the people there don't have a culture where everyone is acknowledged and there's not a lot of unconscious bias, then it is going to be very dangerous. And I think that was so important to call out. And I think it's important to talk about, because even in, being a Black woman and having a very diverse platform, the number one important thing, just like in yoga, just like in fitness, is safety, but not just physical safety, emotional safety, and safety as a human being. And that was even for me amplified. Like I did a lot of study myself, just understanding so many different cultures, and from a place of compassion, because it's like, I know how it feels to be unseen. I know how it feels to like go through this pain. And so I think that's a beautiful thing to call out. And I think a lot of people that's going to be a big takeaway from this conversation, because so many people still ask me that question, what can I do? And you hit the nail on the head. Create a safe space. Create a safe space for yourself, create a safe space for others, where you're holding space and you're allowing others to be heard no matter what their background is. So yes, I'm really excited about, just continuing to work in this space and work together with like-minded people, so that our actions and how we come together and how we teach and even what we have in our curriculum is setting the precedence for, how we come together and create like a safe space for humanity to heal and grow together. So powerful.
Oh, so good.
I now want to kind of dive into your book. I mean, first of all, what inspired you the most for this book? Because, I mean, you've been doing this work for a long time now. You have your own yoga school. You have been, helping people evolve around the world. What's special about this book?
Oh, gosh. So with this one, I was really kind of looking, and I'm sure you too, as along with everybody, of the super fast rise of the wellness industry of stuff, I mean, you've been practicing yoga for a long time too. There wasn't really a lot of stuff to go with it, except in the last maybe 5 years. And it happened so fast, and it happened so kind of, I feel like all the things got thrown at us intensely. And having a studio in New York and seeing people come in and feel so good, and then go out and go about their day, and then kind of look around and feel like, oh, I should be going and getting a green juice, and then drink it, and then throw it away, and then go to this Pilates class because they're a new class in town, and then go get an acupuncture session, and then go do this, and then have my meditation watch. And then, everybody's doing 100 wellness activities during the day, but we're forgetting about our own connection to ourselves. And like you said earlier, what brings you joy, and not to be like, oh, you should only come to our studio and forget about everything else, but like, just do one thing, or just do a couple things. And I think it really dawned on me when I saw a woman, and this isn't to make fun of her, but it was kind of like a representation of so many people in our kind of wellness culture, running out from some sort of fitness class. And she was in her very fancy outfit, had her plastic bottle of smoothie, drinking it over a garbage can, threw it away, and then ran across the street, probably to a meeting or something. And I just thought, holy cow, something has changed very quickly in this kind of world, and what's going on. So the real idea behind that book was about giving us permission to actually slow down, and to realize that when we slow down, we accomplish more, we achieve more. All of the well-being traditions, from shiatsu to tai chi to yoga to like everybody's great grandmother, is saying the same thing, like slow down, eat your vegetables, take good care of each other. So really kind of looking at a lot of these different healing practices and sharing with people that they're so simple. They're basically free, very inexpensive to go and, buy a few things to have or ask your neighbor or kind of cobble things together. And it's not about kind of don't go and buy anything, but really, looking at how we behave around all of this stuff we collect to make ourselves better. And we can do just a few things with just a few people and really feel so much better. So it's really kind of a dive into mental, spiritual, physical, how we move, not just in our yoga practice and our fitness class, but how we move really all the time. When you're picking up the groceries, are we doing it in a tense way? Or can we move a bit better in our bodies and be kinder to ourselves? Standing in line at the grocery store, are we on our phones, or can we take the opportunity to just bend a little bit and soften, breathe, and maybe look around and say hello to somebody? So these kind of things that are, we just forget because it's so easy to buy something to tell us to feel better instead of just doing the simple thing.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true. What has been one of the hardest times in your life that you've had to get through?
Oh my goodness, girl, you are just going for it.
I mean, because your life is very magical, but I really know that, a lot of people might look at you from the outside like she ain't never had a problem in her life. She never had a problem, so I can't relate. So, I mean, I know you have. And so I really want, if you feel comfortable.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, I think it's great that you ask, for sure. And I mean, one thing that comes to my mind that was kind of a big marker was in my dance conservatory, I was sexually assaulted. And I know so many, I didn't tell anybody, I didn't do anything about it. I just stuffed it in, and it created a lot of problems for my own well-being. It developed into weird behaviors, controlling behaviors with myself, a lot of isolation. An eating disorder developed out of it. And then that was embarrassing because, I thought my dance group thought that I was trying to control my body because of dance. And it was really because of this thing that I didn't tell anybody about. So I just really hid it for a really long time. And it really destroyed me. My ballet teacher just touched me on the shoulder one day. And that was really a big moment of, oh, wow, somebody knows. Whether he knows what happened to me or not, he knows that I'm doing a lot of not so nice things to myself because of this. So he said, you really need to start treating yourself better. And that was a big moment where I started to ask for help and seek counseling and get into different therapies and obviously explore yoga, but really it was a bunch of different therapies that just helped me remember, oh, okay, I'm in here somewhere. Knock, knock, get back to yourself. Mm-hmm. And then I just, years later, I learned so much about speaking out and sharing about these things. So it doesn't happen as much as it does happen. Hopefully the school brought me in a few years later and asked me if this had happened with this person. And I was so confused. I wondered, how did you know this happened? They said, well, it happened a bunch of other times with this person. And if you reported it, it wouldn't have. And I just remember feeling so terrible that I didn't report it. And I didn't do anything about it. So I learned a lot about that. I learned a lot of, how I share with really just women who come to my classes and body position and how to keep yourself safe and, not like kung fu fighting or anything like that, but just, how to be more mindful of where you are in space and who you're hanging around and that kind of a thing. And I felt like that's really just put a big color on how I live my life from now on, for sure, because it was a dark time that I didn't realize was dark for a long time until it was kind of on the other side for me, for sure.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know it's going to help a lot of people because it's still happening. And there's so much gray area, even after the Me Too movement, of people coming up and being comfortable enough to share, especially, when it's part of your it's in your home or when it's in activity, your dance, your school, things like that. It's just, it's not easy. And then, like you said, not realizing how you have this opportunity to share, and your sharing is not only helping you, but it's also helping other people. So thank you so much for sharing that.
And it's so wild too. And I feel like a lot of people are doing this anyway. Over the years, before I even shared about this, a lot of young girls in their kind of late teens and early 20s would come up to me after a class and they would tell me privately their story of sexual assault and how doing yoga with me or with others or whatever had really helped them. And I realized later, it took me a while, that I always gravitated toward doing yoga in a very easygoing way, a very soft way, a very kind of safe way. It was really important for me to have a safe environment for myself and for everybody else to feel safe, not in an aggressive. I was never attracted to like kind of hardcore, workout and that mental attitude, more of okay, let's do hard things, but in a way where we're good to ourselves. So I think maybe a lot of people will feel encouraged by that. If you had an experience and you're helping yourself in some way, that thing that you're doing is also, probably going to be helping a lot of other people just by you even doing it yourself and maybe even sharing that thing.
Ashe. So true. So true. And I feel like that, having the conversation and talking about, especially, you being successful, because I feel like a lot of people feel like when that happens to them, I know myself experiencing sexual assault for a long time, I felt like, okay, well, what am I going to do right now? And really disconnected. What are some of the things, I know you said you got therapy, but what was one of the top couple of things you feel like really helped you when you felt like nothing else could?
Well, I think just immediately what I did, it took me a while too, was just remove myself from that place. So I just started crashing on the couch with a friend and I felt immediately safer. I was kind of outside of that environment where it happened. I know that's kind of important for a short term, but really just doing new things in groups that made me feel good. So I didn't even realize at the time that these things were therapeutic for me, but I would go to, really anything that I could find that was a healing circle, Reiki circles. There was, group therapy things that I would just kind of walk into in Chicago. Somehow I found myself in a Black Panther meeting once and I was so cool and so amazing. It was like, it was another one of those moments where like people were there and there was this group hug kind of feeling of just wanting to be together and to serve and to help and to fix things and fix the world and kind of attack in that way. And I thought, wow, this is really beautiful and something I don't know anything about, but I'm so glad that I somehow ended up here. But those kind of things, you can find them really anywhere. Obviously now there's so much online, but for me, it was yoga. Yes. But it was also, kind of walking in and out of different groups and seeing what felt safe and actually removing myself when things didn't feel safe. I remember being in, a Reiki circle once, and I just felt really strange around a group of people. And it doesn't mean that they were bad people. It just means that something was going on with me. So I just left and I felt really empowered leaving. And I just remember going to a coffee shop and sitting down there by myself for a while and thinking, this is a really good decision just to practice leaving a space too. So yeah. I think that was really cool. We kind of look for these groups to heal us when really we're all kind of on our little own journeys, figuring out how to, walk around a little bit better.
Absolutely. That's powerful. I think what I want to point out with that is just that going into the group and feeling held and saying, oh, this feels good, I'm going to stay here. And then going to a group and saying, this doesn't resonate, and not making yourself stay, because so many of us, especially women, we're like, well, I'm here. I don't want to leave. I don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable with me leaving. But I love that you're like, I'm going to honor myself and spend some time by myself, because I feel like that's so important. And a lot of times we don't give ourselves permission to exit situations that make us feel uncomfortable without an apology, without a reason. It's just if your vibration, and like you said, I'm taking responsibility for how I feel, but I'm going to be with myself and feel those feelings. And I think, I just think that's such a good message, especially for young women, is that when you don't feel safe, when you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to have an excuse. You don't have to have a reason. You can just remove yourself from the situation. I think that is so powerful.
That's good. Yeah. Sorry. No, I have a 4-year-old daughter now, and it's kind of been one of my main concerns with her, seeing how different people say things to little girls that are just totally inappropriate, like, oh, you're so pretty, or you're going to get in trouble later with the boys, and these kind of things. It's like, whatever. So of course it's another teachable moment for me to try to not mess things up, but really talking to her about her own intuition. And if she doesn't feel comfortable around somebody, even if I'm right next to her, she can choose to move her body away. And I've seen her do that in a few different situations in public with people. And she would say, I don't feel comfortable around that person. And she would just move. And I was like, that's great, because I also noticed kind of deep cultural instinct in myself to say, oh, no, let's stay here. They're going to notice we're moving away. And then kind of overriding that with her intuition is right. and we need to just go over there. Again, it's not that safety is necessarily in danger, but when you feel that that signal, that's all you need to know. You don't need to worry about anybody else's feelings. Chances are they're not thinking about you at all, and if they are, it doesn't matter to you. It doesn't need to matter to you. So I think it's just it is one of those awkward things, because most of us have been taught the opposite, for sure. And you're right, especially as women, just stay, everybody's going to be uncomfortable.
Right. And I think it's there's a balance, right? It's a balance between like, oh, I'm growing and this makes me feel uncomfortable and I don't feel safe. And is noticing and practicing like, oh, what is it I'm feeling? But again, I like the fact that you're like, I'm just going to go be with myself, not like, oh, this group doesn't feel good, so I'm going to go be with this other group, right? But even if that is the case, it's something that you can sit with and say, I wonder why I felt that way, And I feel like so many times, like I work with my nieces, like when, I'm there as auntie, and I try not to be the auntie. It's like, oh, let's just go out and have fun and forget all your rules and things like that. I really try to observe the differences and how they shift when I come. And if I see something, I say, oh, how does that make you feel? And how do you feel? Because I think so much, because the world's going so fast, and the children, they're like getting kind of the grunt of it. But because we don't have time to ask like how they feel and really process. And I love that you honored your daughter in that way. It was just like, okay, I'm not going to judge whether you moving was right or wrong. I'm just going to flow with you, because I feel like children do feel and see things that we don't. And being able to dive into their intuition and allow them to feel honored for their intuition, I think is something that I know I didn't have growing up. Like I love my parents, and they did the best that they could, but they didn't give a crap how I felt most of the time. They're like, do what I tell you to do, period. So I think that's very, very amazing. And I want to go kind of down that a little bit, because we do have a lot of mothers that listen. What are some of the things that you've noticed, especially at this time with all the things that's going on in the world, that has helped you when it comes to parenting?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm definitely not an expert at all, but I'm really interested for sure. And I feel like, especially with having a daughter, it's a huge opportunity. Every moment is a huge opportunity. And, you notice everything because there's a connection there. I'm sure you feel that with your nieces and all your relatives, and even just little kids that you hang around, they're present and they do see things in a different way. So that's really interesting. But, I noticed that she has coped with everything in the last few years a lot better than I have. And in a way, we explained to her in the beginning what was going on. There's a virus here, and when it's gone, we can go do the same things that we did before again. And she would say things like, the virus needs to go home. Like, yes, the virus needs to go home. So when it came to, doing the simple things to stay safe, she understood that. She's like, well, it's not safe to do these things. So she wasn't missing certain things as much. She just understood in a way. But also I feel really lucky. Mike, my husband, and I were both home. So we can do things with her and we work together. So we don't have, this need for daycare or the kind of 9 to 5 of school that kind of most families have. So she's in a little preschool now that's just a few hours a day, and she loves it. I think she's gotten sick of us for sure. Right. But, I think they're a lot wiser than we often give them credit for sure. And for me, it was just learning the patience to understand what she was talking about or what she was trying to communicate, what she was saying that she wanted to do. And from then on, it's just, doing fun activities, figuring out things that we can kind of do together that are enjoyable. I mean, I love to do art projects and crafts. So instead of just watching TV all day, we just turned the dining room table into craft projects. And I'm thinking, well, this is amazing. I wonder if I would have figured this out in a pre-pandemic world, or if I would have not realized that I could actually have so much fun with her and learn and grow and do weird things and, paint the furniture and do whatever, that we can manage to do in our little world. And, realize you can go outside and play with the leaves and, do the things that are possible when they're possible. So yeah, I don't think that there's any tips that I have except to, to be there and to do things and to put the phone down for sure. I've definitely noticed that the phone doesn't need to be a part of my hand anymore. I don't want it to be. I'm happy when I don't know where it is for a while. And I think that's really important for sure. And obviously these are devices that we all use to do so many different things. And that's really important. But I kind of stopped sharing my life, like the daily things of my life, because I just felt like I was doing it out of boredom instead of out of a really good reason for me. So just kind of went back to maybe 5 years ago feeling of the internet, just sharing the things that I feel like are important or useful that I have to share, or just simple things that we're offering, or doing these share the mics kind of things that are useful and fun and kind of on topic, instead of look at me doing this thing that I'm doing and telling you to do it too for no reason. It's sort of like we're all doing and teaching the thing that we're doing at the same time, because, there's this platform that said we need to say something beautiful about our, daily moment or something. And we don't have to do that. It can be a choice. So I think definitely my biggest tip is put the phone down. You don't need it at all. And you'll realize, when you do need it, and you'll feel better for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful, because I literally don't have my phone on. I have to keep it on silence because
that's awesome.
It you can get attached to it easy. And like you said, it's attached to so many things, because it's like how I open my car and how I play my music. And, it's attached to so many things. And I, like you, it feels good when I'm like, oh yeah, where's my phone? I haven't had my phone for the last 2 hours, and just like how much more present you can be. And when you have other ways to like listen to music and open things, and you actually realize like how you're connected, and you actually choose to disconnect a little bit, I think that's so powerful. So thank you so much for sharing that, because, it's second nature. All of a sudden you realize like I use my phone for 20 to 50 things that I do in a day. And it just happened, right? And there's no judgment, but you realize like, oh, I think I'm attached or maybe even obsessed with my phone, and I think it's something to look at. So thank you so much for that. And now I kind of want to really dive into the book, and you really start with the mind. And I love that your approach to yoga, similar to me, it's eclectic. right? You weaved in Tai Chi and Qigong. And so I kind of want to get into like what inspired that. I mean, of course, you have a background in dance, but what is it specifically about these practices that you felt so moved by them that you actually included in the way you teach?
I think it kind of happened to me for sure. I was drawn to yoga for, I think, similar to you, just how it makes you feel. And I just felt, oh my gosh, I'm in my own spaceship and this is so soft and I can connect to myself and the world. And why doesn't everybody do this? And all of these kind of overwhelming feelings. And the more I started going to different yoga, I mean, back then there wasn't even that many studios, different yoga classes or workshops or things here and there. I really saw this forcefulness really from, and it wasn't always coming from the teacher. Sometimes it was just coming from my own expectations. So whether it's coming from the outside in or the inside out, you know, the pose became the goal. And if you can do it, you get kind of applause for yourself. And if you can't, then maybe you'll get it next time, you know, that whole feeling. And then I just felt a little bit of that was not resonating with me. It wasn't how I wanted to practice. Yeah. And I just kind of put it down and kept going. I said, okay, this pressure, even if it's coming from the inside, I can control that. I can manage it. I can just do this class and it's up to me how I feel. And at the time, a friend of ours who is a shiatsu practitioner in New York, and it's kind of a funny connection with my first ballet teacher. He worked on him when he was with American Ballet Theater in New York. And so there was all these kind of connections there with yoga. And he said, Tara, what you're kind of leading in your classes is like the healing arts with Tai Chi and Shiatsu. You're kind of guiding people with the movement and you don't really care about the end point of the pose, but you're doing this frame by frame thing. And he's like, that's Tai Chi, that's Shiatsu, that's Qigong. And I'm like, well, I know nothing about these things. Maybe I should start to learn, you know? Right. So I thought, okay, intuitively, I just want to be softer and move well. It's not like the form doesn't matter, but for me, the form matters every single moment when you start your practice. And why does your practice have to end when it's over? Why then do you get up and like, you know, treat yourself badly and then run over to your bag and then run out the door? How can we do that a little bit nicer too? So I was really interested in kind of the all the time movement of how we do these things. Mm-hmm. And it just started to get really part of my ideas of how I wanted to practice. So I just started learning more about Tai Chi and Shiatsu and all of these things. And then thinking, yes, that makes so much sense. And then realizing, oh, why aren't these practices so dogmatic and rigid? And then after talking with so many people that have been doing them for a long time, I probably think that it's just because they're not as popular as yoga. You know, if Tai Chi was as popular as yoga, it would be, no, you have to do like this and you have to do like this. Instead of just, oh, Tai Chi is this nice thing that we do. And maybe we thought that way about yoga even 30 years ago in America. Oh, yoga is that kind of boring thing that's a little bit slow. And of course, that's changed quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you bring that up because I feel like it almost mirrors different personalities. And I'm someone who started with something Ashtanga that's seemingly very rigid, but I do it very intensely, but also do it very softly as well. And I, like you, always try to find the softness. And I do think that, like you said, with the Tai Chi and Qigong, I feel like the more people embrace it, the more you see it done in so many different ways. And I feel like it's definitely no right or wrong, but I do think it's fascinating to think about how when something gains popularity, it changes so much. And a lot of people, especially in the yoga world, as you know, really, really unhappy with the way people are changing. I'm excited to hear what you think about it, because I think that anytime something so healing catches on, I don't care how a person wants to practice it. I'm just happy that they're actually practicing, because there's so many other toxic things in the world that they can be doing.
Absolutely. I mean, 100%. And everybody is different. So you need a different way to connect. You need a different guide, a different teacher, you know?
Yeah.
There's plenty of things for everybody, you know, even in yoga. My friend, she's passed away now, Tao Porchon Lynch, she lived to 103 or 4. And she would always say, oh, in India, they would do yoga like this. And then over here, they do it like this. And it's just because their mountain was over there and their mountain was over there. You know, it just has to do with lifestyle and proximity and what you need and what you want and where the lack of balance is. So, you know, it makes sense. Ashtanga became popular with, you know, school age young people to kind of get the energy out. And it makes sense. You can also do it in a soft way. If you were sitting at desks all day, we still need to do something energetic and to move ourselves. We don't need to have rigidity in it. You know, we don't need that 12-year-old discipline to be able to sit up straight. You know, we can let that go. You know, it's not really relevant anymore. So absolutely. And, you know, I talk about this a lot with folks that are, you know, have grown up in these cultures. I have a good friend. She teaches Ayurveda and she grew up in Ayurveda. And I love asking her kind of questions I'd be embarrassed to ask on my own. And she would always say, you know, Ayurveda is from India, but it's inside all of us. So you can take the foods that your grandmother made and make them more healing through the principles of Ayurveda. You don't need to go and take an Indian cooking class unless you really want to take an Indian cooking class. So for me, when I started learning yoga, you know, well, now we have the word cultural appropriation, but I felt uncomfortable teaching yoga in Sanskrit for a bunch of reasons. One, I thought, well, if somebody's going to come to my class and they're like me, you know, or they just don't have a lot of yoga experience. And if I say, you know, Chaturanga Dandasana, they're not going to know what I'm talking about. So then they're going to feel, you know, left behind or just bored. So if I can guide the movement, that's a different thing. And I thought, well, that's also interesting. Instead of saying the endpoint of a position, I can guide how to get there through movement. So I just kind of let go of speaking Sanskrit in class because I also felt like, well, who am I to say these things that I don't have a history in? You know, who am I to do that? So I didn't really think about it a ton, but I did think about it a little bit. And I remember a lot of friends that were yoga teachers saying, why aren't you teaching this in Sanskrit? And then I would kind of think, well, you're a white girl and you speak in an Indian accent when you teach yoga. And that kind of makes me uncomfortable, but I don't have any right to be uncomfortable, but I just don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah, I think that's important to call out because it's like, again, you have to do what you feel comfortable doing. And I think, you know, going through the program for myself and learning the Sanskrit, I thought it was fascinating. And I love the art of it. I love the beauty of it. It is a language in and of itself. So I respect it for that. But I too feel like you, know, if I have beginners, I don't feel it's aligned to, unless they coming into my yoga teacher training, which it has that. And if they want to learn it as a lineage, as an art, as a language, they get to learn it because I think it's very beautiful. But just in everyday classes, it's like knowing, and even like you said, not even like the English terms for like a pose, but the movement. I think that's so special. And I didn't know this about your school, but this is the same thing that I do in my yoga school is like, you have to be able to teach people how to move into a position. Like that is a strong teacher. If you can teach them how to move their body into a position versus just calling out the name of a pose. And I think that's so powerful and it's so connecting because you're also teaching people their body and how the body moves versus, because it goes back to in the beginning, you said like the goal isn't actually a pose at the end of the day. So if you're teaching people body movements, they're moving their body or trying to move the body in a certain way versus trying to reach a pose. So we are aligned on that. And I love that we're talking about it because I think that a lot of times in yoga, we don't talk about it enough. And a lot of people come to the class and they're like, oh, well, I'm not as flexible as her, or I think I'll never. And I even had a teacher who was like, that person will never get that pose. And I was like, oh my goodness, like because of the person's size. I was like, well, let me show you a picture of my friend who is doing that pose and actually is a bigger size than this person. And they were mind blown and they didn't know. And I love them and they're amazing. And they had no negative intention, but it's just how the mind thinks because of what we see. and
Mm-hmm.
what we don't see. But when we just allow movement and allow people to evolve in their own time, that's where the magic is. Like, that's the magic. So I love that. And I'm glad we talked about this, because I feel like I don't think I've had this conversation on this podcast yet. So it makes me very excited, because I think that a lot of people aren't starting yoga because they feel like I can't do it, or I'm really, really stiff. And I'm like, so this is really, really going to be good.
Yeah.
Yoga isn't for the flexible. It's actually, when I started, I remember I was in pain trying to get my leg in lotus. I could not touch my toes. And so I love how you soften into, and what I love even more about your book is that you really take it, and even with your pictures, you're in regular clothes, you're doing regular activities. Can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to just really take it all the way different in this book, and what you're hoping to reach people by doing it in the way that you did?
Yeah, I really love the idea of, how you do one thing. I know this is so not a perfect line, but how you do one thing is how you do everything. Mm-hmm. And, for me, it's so great having yoga as a place to practice. How do I want to do everything else? Yeah. It's a place to get healthy, to get strong, to get, mentally clear, all of that. But it's really a practice of how I want to be. Like, how do I want to pick up the groceries? How do I want to be when I see a stranger on the street? How do I want to be? I don't want to have to think, oh, am I being a yoga person now? Am I clicking into that? I just want it to be a natural part of me, So the more I started getting interested in kind of all of the healing arts and just listening to more artists and listening to music, and you kind of start hearing everybody's saying the same thing. I mean, Lauryn Hill says everything is everything. I kind of grew up in that era and a lot of her music, but it's sort of, it's kind of everywhere. So for me, it's really important to share with myself and to show people that, it's great if you can take an hour a day or 30 minutes a day to do yoga, but you don't want to get to a point where you feel like the world is ending if you don't have that time. That's kind of a luxurious, special time. You can sweep the floor, and instead of just moving the broom, from your hand, kind of like cursing the world, you can move from your middle. And that's how the monks do it. That's how the Tai Chi masters do it. And when I do it, my little daughter wants to pick up a broom too and sweep. And I'm like, oh, we're sweeping together. And it's not this thing that's, you should hire somebody to do. At least for me, it's not, oh, let somebody else do that. It's like, this is a thing where we're actually taking care of our space, and we're practicing using what we have. We're practicing being grateful for what we have, and we're practicing doing something useful right now. We're not, outsourcing the yucky things and only doing the enjoyable things. And I think that's so much of being grateful too. It's just, how to do everything. When you're sitting at your computer, you can be the one in the Zoom meeting. You don't have to be a meditation teacher to say, okay, everybody, before today's Zoom meeting, let's take a breath and just, look at each other and breathe and have a few moments. Kind of, if you practice, you can also share these simple things. And I just love that it's so easy to do once you start doing it. You can pick up the toys on the ground. You can reach your deadline, without being stressed here. You can type kind of here and wiggle yourself a little bit and connect with your breath body connection. And then when you have that luxurious time to do your yoga practice, it's an extension of that. It's not a separate thing, this is my time. Yes, it's your time, but all the time is your time. So kind of saw that as well. A lot of people feeling like, I can't wait until I get to that yoga class and I'm just going to feel better. And as soon as it's over, it's going to start right back up again. I'm going to get stressed out, but it doesn't have to be like that. Yes, life is always going to be hard. It's just always going to be something, but it's really, how we move through it all is what makes it beautiful or what makes it intolerable and disconnected. So you're either in or you're out, but we all want to be in. So why not share that?
I love it. I love it. It's like, it's a lifestyle. And I know it's so cliche to say that, but you truly live yoga as a lifestyle. I have to say that, like, just you really do in your life, in your book, it's like really making a lifestyle. And I think that's really when we're going to feel connected. Like, it's not just a box to tick. Mm-hmm. It is actually nurturing every part of our day and seeing every part of our day is sacred. Like you said, even sweeping the floor or washing the dishes, it's so sacred. And so I love that. I highly resonate with that. I still need help sometimes because I'm extremely messy. But I do when I take the time to, like, you know, fold the clothes, or when I take the time, like, I love the fact that I can listen to an audio book and just sing and dance while I'm doing it. It makes it so much fun. So I love that you call that out. And I love that you make life fun by realizing, like, some of the most mundane tasks or some of the tasks that we don't like, you can make it special. You know, and I think that's a superpower, and that people listening are like, you know what, how am I gonna make straightening my bed fun?
You can. You just bend your knees and move from your middle, little side to side, dance around if you like to dance around, and there you go. Everything.
I love that. Yeah, dancing makes everything fun, right?
True.
Well, what is the favorite in the last year or so? What's your favorite book that you've read?
Oh my gosh. Well, let me see. Okay, there's a few. So my friend Casey Gerald, I got to hear him speak a few years ago and just blew me away. But he wrote this book, a memoir, but it reads like super poetry. It's called There Will Be No Miracles Here. And I love that memoir. And then another, you know, it's so cool now with the internet, you can write to your favorite authors and they usually like give you a heart back or something. And to me, authors are like rock stars. I'm like, oh my gosh, this person just commented on my post to them, you know, or whatever it is. But so Casey's definitely, you know, something like that for me. Whenever I see him speak or whenever he'll write another book, that'll be amazing. But another author, Jamie Adenberg, has another memoir out as well. And she writes fiction. And her memoir reads like fiction, and it's kind of like Eat, Pray, Love for like dingy people, a little bit indie. So she spent a lot of time in New York. So I feel like we have a lot of kind of creative similarities there. And it kind of reads more like the artist's way, kind of how to be creative. And I don't know if she intended to do that, but I wrote that on Twitter, and a lot of her author friends responded to me and said, oh, I felt that way too. So I think it's a really nice book. I'm just a fan of her fiction. And then I read that and I thought, okay, this is really cool how it kind of gives me permission to do the ideas, whether they work or they don't. I mean, she was really honest about being an author for many years and not failing at it, but not succeeding either. So I thought that was kind of cool to share, you know, because you know, we often see these people as, you know, everything must be perfect. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but definitely Casey Gerald and Jamie Adenberg for sure. 2 favorites this year.
Awesome. Thank you. And what would you say, like if something happened today and it just crushed you, like, how do you get loved up? How do you like pick yourself up? What is that thing you do? You're like, okay, if I do this, I'm going to be okay.
Oh, for me, it's so simple. I just crawl down to the ground. I have to get down and get low, whether it's outside or inside, it doesn't matter. Just crawl down to the ground, soften my whole self, and then watch my breath move me. And for me, that's magic every time. I always feel like if I can relax myself to the point where my breath just starts to say, oh, here we are, let's go, this is happening, then I just get put right back on that track. It's like the door opens and the happy house guest is outside waiting to come in and, you know, to make my spirit a little bit back to normal. So just getting down to the ground and softening.
I love that. Well, last question. We're diving into the holiday season. What is your favorite? What are you most excited about eating?
Oh, eating. My goodness. So yeah, I love to cook, and I just love finding new recipes. It's so easy now with the internet, but Oh, I love cookies and sweets and peanut butter cookies and pumpkin pies and things like that. So all those things. You can save the turkey and all that. I don't really care about that stuff, but yeah, all of the sweet things I'm cooking. I'm trying to figure out, I grew up on this really terrible thing called dirt pudding. It's like they would serve it. It's really gross. It's kind of like Oreo cookies crushed up with Cool Whip, basically. So I'm trying to figure out how to make a healthier version of that, maybe with coconut frozen milk or something. So I'm kind of experimenting a little bit. So it's really good. It sounds gross, but it's really chocolatey and good.
It sounds amazing. You're like, terrible where, aren't Oreos vegan? No, it's a lot of sugar, but I think I've had that before. And you would actually be happy as my house guest because I just made a pumpkin pie.
Ooh.
I cannot wait to taste it. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been so amazing just learning more about you and just really diving in. And I would just want you to share with everyone like how they can find you, where they can pick up your book and all those things so they can keep getting loved up with you.
Oh, you're so nice. Yeah, easy to find me, just tarastiles.com or strolayoga.com. That book, Clean Mind, Clean Body, is in all the usual book places, thankfully. And if you want to practice yoga, we have the Stråla Yoga app. We have live classes every day. Don't worry, nobody can see you. There's a chat box if you feel like chatting. Sometimes people get a little concerned about that, but the classes are saved every day. So they're there, as well as our kind of over a decade long of videos. So we finally got around to making an app, and that's been really nice to have to practice with people for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for blessing the world with all that you are. And for those out there who love this episode as much as I did, do not forget to leave a review. Let us know what you loved about it. And on social media, let us know your takeaways. Tag me, tag Tara. Just let us know what you loved. And until next time, love yourself, love others, and love the world. One day at a time, one breath at a time. Peace and love.
I just want to take a moment to say thank you for being part of the Get Loved Up community. I like to share topics and people making a positive impact in the world, and your feedback means the world to me. If you haven't already left a review, please leave a 5-star review and let me know what you want to hear more of on the show. I'm here for you, and together we're making the world a better place, one day at a time, one show at a time. Thank you for listening.